Running wild in the streets, and every time I thought I had got it better, the taste was not so sweet. So I turned myself to face me. I never caught a glimpse of the others would see if they got. I'm much too fast to take that test. To change it, the face is strange. To change it, wanna be a richer man. To change it, the face is strange. To change it, it's gonna have to be a different man. Now they change me, but I can't change them.
Hi, my name is Christopher Michael Duncan, and after years of frustration trying to create success, I got a lesson from a
Ascension News, the magical power of stories. Starseeds are pioneers in consciousness. They are the way showers, magicians, creators, and co-creators of reality. One way starseeds manifest is through stories. But not just any story. They weave around them joyful, loving, magical stories that allow, attract, and create magic all around them. One trait that all humans share is a love of stories. Actually, we are all storytellers as well as story receivers. Stories help us make meanings about the events of our lives. They help us create a sense of belonging to a family, a culture, or some other group. Humanity has been telling stories for countless generations. Tribal stories, for instance, were told as a way of shaping collective identity and tribal belonging. Humans in our modern world do not normally sit around campfires telling tribal stories of belonging and meaning. Most stories that men and women live by could be called ego stories or coping stories, and these stories are certainly not magical. They tend to be fearful and anxiety-driven stories. They speak about what we can expect or not expect in our day, how much love, abundance, joy, or lack of it we can expect, how much conflict, stress, and unhappiness there is in our lives. Men and women are always making up stories all the time. The more a story is repeated and emotionally reinforced, the more a person will be convinced of the truth and solidity of that story. Nowadays, in our modern world, we're bombarded with different kinds of stories. Stories are presented through a range of different mediums and channels. There are so many platforms and channels these days where we can find news stories. We are now able to see and listen to cultural stories from around the world by simply having a good internet connection. This, of course, gives the impression there's a great sense of freedom in the Western world when it comes to knowing what's really going on around us. However, since fact-checking and censorship are now becoming an increasing feature of Western news platforms and outlets, how broad and true are the news stories we are receiving? We could be tempted into thinking that different journalists are coming up with similar perspectives, meaning these stories must be true. Heaven forbid they're just reading a script handed down to them by some higher power or authority seeking to control all the important narratives being put out into the public domain. Okay, let's go to the beginning of our own personal story, which is our birth. In our family of birth, we're receiving stories all the time. These stories may be hopeful or hopeless, inspiring or depressing, expansive or contracting, empowering or disempowering. Family stories do not begin with our parents, they're much older. We can inherit ancestral stories that contain the summation of experiences and wisdom handed down by those who went before us. The challenge of these stories is they do not often help us navigate our modern world. Perhaps we have an old family or ancestral story that more or less says stay safe, avoid taking too much risk, avoid having perhaps even too much wealth, because wealth may be dangerous, since others may seek to cheat us or steal from us. Ancestral stories may contain elements of heartbreak, betrayal, sudden reversals of fortune, and so on. The dominant unresolved patterns within these stories are the ones that tend to be passed down through the generations for some form of healing and resolution. We are multidimensional beings, and this is just one lifetime amongst many. We inherit stories, you could say, from other lifetimes, and some of these stories again will be expansive and will speak about great resourcefulness and gifts. Other stories may be stressful and traumatic and make us feel fearful and cautious when they're triggered. Imagine for a moment you've been killed in some lifetime for speaking or acting on your truth. Then in this lifetime you come to a spiritual choice point where you feel you want to align with the truth of your being. This creates a certain internal tension as one part of you wants to awaken and another part of you wants to stay safe and not replay any trauma that happened from some other lifetime. In terms of ascension and spiritually waking up, we start to become aware of a whole range of stories within us that seek to encourage or limit our life. When we wake up from the sleepiness of this 3D world, then we realize that although we live in a dimension with certain laws about time, our true point of power is always in the present moment. What we call the past is just a bunch of energies we call memories, which are held in the physical body and the energy field. Similarly, the future is just a stream of probabilities that we have not yet experienced in the present moment. Our relationship with the past and with the future can be renegotiated from the present moment. We are not a victim of the past or our past stories. We're not locked into any predestined future. In each and every moment, we create our reality. Let's take a look at some of our beliefs. For example, the belief someone might hold that life is fundamentally not fair. And this belief can become a sort of lens through which the past is viewed, and also the present and future is viewed. This focus will encourage the unconscious mind to sort through all experiences in the past to find instances where life could be considered unfair. There may be memories that could be framed this way, even though through the eyes of another that does not hold this belief, a very different version of events will be presented. Such a strongly held belief in the unfairness of life will place a lens over everything in everyday life. Perhaps the person will read articles in the newspaper that reinforce this belief. Any strongly held belief will encourage the unconscious mind to either ignore any evidence that runs counter to the belief, or encourage the unconscious mind to reframe the evidence so that it fits with the current narrative. There's an example of a story I heard once in a personal development seminar. It was told as if it was true. And this story was about a psychiatrist who had a patient who firmly believed he was a zombie. In the story, at a certain point, the psychiatrist asked the patient if zombies bleed. I think he was getting quite frustrated at this point. And the patient replied, "Of course not, they're the living dead." The psychiatrist took a needle and pricked the finger of the patient. The patient's finger formed a droplet of blood. The patient looked at the finger and after a period exclaimed, "I was wrong. Zombies do bleed." Now, whether that's true or not, that story, it highlights the fact that where there's a strongly held belief that any new data that goes against the truth of the existing story, that data is altered to fit in the existing story. This happens all the time. When enough people do this, then you could say that collective truth is altered. Take the example of 9/11. There was so much data that did not really fit in the existing narrative that was being put out by governments. And of course, anybody who disagreed with this was called a conspiracy theorist. And this was meant to be a way of discouraging anyone from not buying into the mainstream narrative. And to a large extent, the same thing's happening now in the current global crisis. We are not at the mercy of any story or any belief. Awareness is always curative, and with awareness comes the choice to change our minds and adopt a new story or belief. For instance, a person growing up in a family where there was little joy or happiness, the guardians may have focused much of their energy and time on complaining and blaming, and the person may have grown up with the belief that life is fundamentally miserable and maybe even full of suffering. A person looking out at the world with this belief will tend to see a world of misery. And even though such a person may have lived his or her life for many years this way, perhaps slowly or suddenly they become aware that they've been living through a very limiting story. They realize somehow that misery is not the inherent nature of reality. Rather, it's something they have believed because of their formative years. We understand the story to be a belief or set of filters over reality that can be changed or removed. Perhaps such a person starts working on affirmations and meditation, and though it may feel odd at first, gradually they feel more at ease with trying on a new set of tinted glasses, so to speak, through which to see the world. Now, instead of seeing a world of misery, they start noticing people having fun, and perhaps begin to notice there are things to feel grateful for in life. As this happens, they're perhaps even able to scan the memories to find instances of joy in their childhood or adolescence. Stories have a power to uplift or a power to bring down the vibration. Once a story is understood to be just that, a story, it can be changed. When we change our minds, we literally begin to see the world with new eyes. When a limited story is changed, then even difficult past experiences can be seen and evaluated in a fresh light. Happier memories perhaps may come to the surface, ones that could not previously be found because the unconscious mind was not even looking for them. The thoughts we habitually think and the feelings we habitually feel are shaped and contained by the stories we believe to be true. These habitual thoughts and feelings shape our reality in the present and invite people and circumstances to step into our reality in the future. We could say that the thoughts and feelings we dwell on are what determine our experience of life. We could also say the circumstances we find ourselves in are reflections of our most persistent thoughts, feelings, and stories. We can always stop telling our sad stories, and there's a great film that highlights this. In the film Jerry Maguire, played by Tom Cruise, he goes out to lunch with his employee Dorothy, played by Renee Zellweger. They're just colleagues, but Dorothy is harbouring a serious crush on Jerry Maguire. They begin to discuss their personal lives, and Jerry begins to recall his most recent romantic failure. At this point in the film, Dorothy leads in and says, "Jerry, let's not tell our sad stories." I thought that was such a brilliant moment in the film, and that line stayed with me ever since. Stories and beliefs can influence and even cause physical discomfort and illness. For example, a person may have a strongly held belief and story about the virtues of working hard. This impulse may have resulted through demanding parents that impressed upon the child such a drive. They could also have roots in some religious story held by the bloodlines still reverberating in the family field. The present reality will be a reflection of the need to work hard, the drive to make ends meet, the pressure of deadlines to be reached, or perhaps the importance of pleasing others through performance. Any natural desire to rest or recharge and have fun will run secondary to this main story. Over time, this may cause physical distress that will grow. Let's perhaps add another element to this example. Imagine a person who believes in hard work had a difficult relationship with one or both parents. Imagine this was so difficult at times they felt anger and hate towards one or both parents. But they also grew up with the message it was wrong to feel that way. So on the one hand, there were strongly held feelings that were repressed because of the idea it was wrong to express those feelings. Though hidden, these feelings may not have found resolution. They're still there and may surface in other ways that do not seem linked to the original cause. These feelings remain in the body, creating a certain dynamic tension that again manifests in some other physical discomfort or disease, and this continues until the original cause is uncovered and dealt with. So I hope by now I've impressed upon you the power of stories, and it's important the kind of stories we live by. Starseeds are born into 3D density and can take on limited stories from 3D families and the collective. Since starseeds are so sensitive, this can hamper their ability to live a blessed life until these stories are transformed or released. I want to emphasize everything can be transformed, healed, and cleared in the present moment. Starseeds especially have this ability as they begin to awaken. Whatever the origins of any limiting story or set of beliefs, awareness is curative. And just becoming aware of the true origins is the first step in allowing greater freedom in the present moment. We're all storytellers. It's important to become aware of the stories we're living within. One important healing tool when it comes to transforming stories is the imagination. Imagination is important because it's a gateway to speaking to our unconscious mind. There are many other benefits in working with creative imagination. For example, athletes and actors use the imagination to retrain their bodies and minds for upcoming events. But for now, there's just a couple of exercises at working with stories and beliefs. The first exercise is think of an area of life you have difficulty with, perhaps money, work, relationships, or health. Get out a journal and write all your thoughts and feelings about this area. Censor nothing. Let it all out. Just channel the energy all out onto paper. When you've finished, put it away. Then in a few days, reread what you have written. As far as possible, imagine you are reading the ideas and opinions of someone else, and your job is to uncover what this person really believes about this area of their life. You're evaluating it in three ways. What they believe is possible and impossible for them in this area of their life. What they believe they are capable of achieving or incapable of achieving in this area of their life. Or how they feel worthy or unworthy in this area of their life. Exercise 2 is think of a play or book or film you have been drawn to over and over again in your life. Perhaps a book you have read many times or a film you have watched over and over. Bring to mind that story. What is the story? And what is the main theme of this story? Perhaps heartbreak, betrayal, redemption through struggle. Perhaps that of light versus dark. Who are the main characters you sympathize with? Who are the ones that repel you? This story and all of the characters in it relate to one of your own personal stories. What would you love to change about this story if you could? Perhaps something in the characters or something about the theme or something about the ending. Exercise 3. Imagine an area of your life that you have a challenge in could be represented by a landscape. This landscape could be anything from a meadow, a forest, a jungle, a mountainous region, perhaps an area near the sea, or perhaps a desert. Close your eyes and ask your unconscious mind, your creative imagination, to present you with the landscape. Do not try and visualize the landscape, just allow it to be presented to you. Open your inner senses, your sense of seeing, colour, shape, and form, of hearing sound and silence, of feeling, touching, knowing, intuitive, smelling and tasting. Allow the landscape to arise up around you. How does this landscape look or feel? Standing in this landscape, how happy or peaceful do you feel here? Imagine you can explore this landscape. Perhaps there are areas of this landscape that need cleaning up or transforming in some way. Imagine you can transform any part of this landscape into something more expansive, elegant, freeing, abundant, or loving. Whatever qualities are important to you in this area of your life. So exercise 1 is writing an area of your life out as a journal, all thoughts and feelings. Exercise 2 is a play, book or film you've been drawn to over and over again. Exercise 3 is think of an area of your life that has difficulty. What landscape represents that difficulty? Go and explore that landscape and start doing some creative adjustments there. Finally, I just want to say there are a number of meditation tracks and various tracks on my channel designed to help neutralize, clear and reverse limiting stories. For example, I've got a number of affirmation tracks which are very useful. There are also tracks designed to work on ancestral energies and other lifetime energies touching you now in this lifetime. So I do hope this little piece has been useful for you, or some parts of it have been useful for you, or given you food for thought. As always, I share this with many blessings, love and blessings. This creates a certain internal tension as one part of you wants to awaken and another part of you wants to stay safe. Welcome to this golden rainbow Herkimer diamond angelic light transmission. Clearing, activating the crown and base chakras. As always, open body, open mind. Focusing on the cycle of breath. On the in-breath, it's the invitation of light from the universe around you 360 degrees into every cell of your body. Light. And on the out-breath, a releasing of all lower energies back to the universe, back to the light. Allowing more light, more space in your body. Following that cycle of breath, the invitation of light with the in-breath. And the purging of lower energies in your body and energy fields on the out-breath. Let's call your team in spirit of the highest light resonance, your higher self, the monadic self, the oversoul, all angels and archangels working with you, all specialist teams in spirit working with you, all guides, helpers, star beings, star races, working with you. Come be with you now. Come be with you now. Let's call to the archangels in the horizontal plane, beginning in the east, Raphael, archangel of air, place of the rising sun. The symbol is the crystal wand with two golden vines, and at the top of the wand, those vines hold a moldavite crystal, pine cone-shaped crystal. As you focus on the symbol, calling the energy of emerald green fire into the space to hold the space, to hold the space. To the south is Michael, archangel, the element of fire, warrior protector angel. The symbol of this angel is a sword of blue flaming light, and the energy is electric blue fire. As you focus on the symbol, invoking that fire into space to hold the space, electric blue fire. To the west is Gabriel, archangel of water, of the emotions of the dream time. The symbol is a silver chalice, and the energy of diamond white fire. As you focus on this symbol, invoking that fire into space to hold the space, to hold the space. To the north is Uriel, archangel of earth, of structure, of solidity of the body. The symbol, a golden pentacle, a five-pointed star in a circle of light. The energy, ruby red fire. As you focus on the symbol, invoking that fire to hold the space, to hold the space. Four angels, four energies in open. And let's call to the vertical force space, Metatron and Sandalphon. Beginning with Sandalphon from the crystal language of the earth, to bring that light up to the feet, grounding your body, grounding your body. Up to the legs, up through the torso, the base opens. The great sphere of light opens. The sacral opens. A great sphere of light opens. The solar plexus opens. A great sphere of light opens. And up to the heart, anchoring into the heart. Allow all chakras from the heart downwards to align with the crystalline grid. And let's call to Metatron from the great central sun, bring that light down through the stargate of the sun, down into the room, the space you're in. Allowing that light to infuse all the walls, floor, ceiling, door, windows. And bring that light down through the head. Crown chakra opens. A great sphere of light opens. The third eye opens. A great sphere of light opens. The throat opens. A great sphere of light opens. And down to the heart that opens, anchoring into the heart. Allow chakras in the heart upwards to align with the great central sun. And breathe. Two grids of light anchored into the heart. Opening the inner channel. Opening the inner channel. And let's call to soundophone from the crystalline grid and Herkimer diamond angels from the grid of light of the earth to hold the space. Let's call upon those angels to send a diamond white light into the base chakra. Herkimer diamond white light into the base, beginning to clear all layers, levels and dimensions of the base. All 12 layers, levels and dimensions. Allowing the base to expand into a great sphere of light. Just feeding this transmission of light into the base. Releasing what needs to be released, opening what needs to be opened. Feeling the base expanding into a great sphere of light, expanding now. More light from Herkimer diamond angels into the base. Anchoring you in the body, anchoring your body to the crystalline grid of the earth. And in this transmission, beginning to feel now the abundance of light, the abundance of energy, the abundance of gifts in the earth grid. The earth holds all abundance, all resources. Feeling those energies as you open to the earth grid. Great veins of crystals in the earth. Great veins of all precious metals in the earth. Places of high frequency in the earth. Feeling the abundance of energy in the earth now. And let's call to Metatron from the great central sun, and golden rainbow angels to hold the space. Golden rainbow angels from Ascension Grid gathering around you. And calling on these angels to begin to send the transmission of golden rainbow light into the crown chakra, into all layers, levels and dimensions. Expanding this chakra into a great sphere of light. Clearing all 12 layers, levels and dimensions of the crown. And in this transmission, opening up to the abundance of light and energy in the universe. The unlimited abundance of light and energy in the universe. From the great star nation, billions of stars in our universe alone. Many star races. In your connection to the universe, for you are a child of the universe. And allowing Metatron and Sandphon and all angels to openly intensify in the channel, the connection of light between crown and base. Allowing the light in these two chakras to connect and synchronize to some extent. Just feeling the connection between crown and base. One grounding you into the earth, one grounding you into the universe. And let's call upon Sandphon and the Herculean Diamond Angels, beginning to pulse light into the base, expanding the base, feeling a pulse of light growing and then releasing from the base, sending a wave of light out throughout the planetary grid. A wave of Herculean diamond light out from the base, pulsing in all directions, 360 degrees. Feeling that intensification again of light in the base as another pulse grows in the base. releasing a pulse of light from the base around the planet, 360 degrees. Feeling a third pulse growing to the point of release, and then releasing that pulse of light all directions. Allowing its pulsing to continue in the base chakra. And as this is happening, it's called a Metatron, and the golden rainbow angels begin to pulse light into the crown. Building a great pulsation in the crown. Filling the crown with light until a wave of light pulses around the planetary grid from the crown chakra, sending a pulse of light, golden rainbow. Herkimer diamond pulsing in the base, golden rainbow in the crown. And allow a greater synchronization between these two chakras, so allowing the chakra pulses to synchronize so the pulses go together at the same time, same intensity, just noticing the pulsing. if the light in one chakra is more intense than the other, just allowing them to synchronize so that the intensity of both are similar. The same intensity of light. Herkimer diamond, angelic light in the base, golden rainbow light in the crown, synchronizing these waves. Allowing great waves of light to pass through all layers, levels, dimensions of these two chakras, pulsing them out around the planet. Feeling the abundance of energy in the universe from the crown. Feeling the abundance of light in the earth from the base chakra. And breathe and open, allowing these two chakras to act like lighthouses, pulsing energy around the planet, to all the starseed family around the planet. Feeling a great anchoring of light in the planetary grid. Allowing these two spheres of light to grow so they begin to overlap and touch in the body. The Herkimer light in the base, the golden rainbow in the crown, allow them to expand, beginning to merge slowly into one great sphere of light. of a diamond, golden rainbow around the body, growing, encasing the whole auric field in golden rainbow of mid-diamond light. So you're sitting in a great